This is an 8-iron, and it's a dead shank.
Wow.
Way right.
Oh, takes a hop off the path.
You gotta be kidding me. Very tough pitch shot right here. You gotta hit it into the hill, one hop up and bite, and it's in.
Kind of like that.
Well, I would like to welcome three-time winning Ryder Cup member, U.S. Open champion, and the 2018 vice captain for the European team in the upcoming Ryder Cup, Graeme McDowell, to the podcast. Graeme, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today.
No, you go, Jason. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, before we get to this little event outside of Paris in about a month, let's talk about your golf game, the state of it. What are you currently working on, and what will your schedule look like for the rest of 2018 post the Ryder Cup over in Paris?
Yeah, obviously not the year I had envisaged, finishing 143 in the FedEx. It's been a frustrating few years for me. Got married, had a family, kind of had that readjustment phase in my life where I, you ask yourself the tough questions: do I still want to do this? And I certainly came up with an emphatic yes. This is exactly what I want to do, and really recommitted myself to the game the last couple of years. And there's no doubt that it's been a more difficult journey back to the top of the game than I had certainly hoped for. It's been a little bit of a slower process, but this last 18 months, this last year especially, has been much stronger from the point of view of seeing the kind of play that I expect from myself. Just frustratingly wasn't able to capitalize on my good weeks this season, hence really didn't kind of shoot up those leaderboards and shoot up the FedEx Cup point list. But I come into this little bit of a sort of mini off season, which I'm in right now, with a lot of positives and a lot of good feels with what I'm doing with my game. I feel like I can make a big push on here these next 12 months, and scheduled for me, taking 5 weeks off at the minute pre-Ryder Cup, and listen, very excited about the vice captaincy and being over there in Paris and seeing a completely different angle of the Ryder Cup than I've experienced in my life. But certainly be using that as an inspiration and a motivation to help me kick on to the next phase of my career. I'll play a couple of weeks in Europe right after the Ryder Cup, which is Dunhill Links and British Masters, and then finish out the year here in the States with those 3 fall series events, which I really like, which are Vegas, Mexico, and the McGladrey up in Sea Island. So that's kind of what the year looks like for me. And like I say, really upbeat about my game, although most people will maybe look at my results and my finish this season and think that maybe I'm in the doldrums as such. But no, I'm feeling really good about things.
Our good friends at Cleveland and Srixon have some new products that they're launching this fall. I'm sure you've had your hands on them beforehand to do some testing, et cetera, et cetera. Is there anything for that fall run on both tours you're going to be putting in the bag this year, or any changes in your equipment for the 2018-2019 season? Yeah,
listen, I've been with Srixon in Cleveland this is my 8th season now. I really feel like this year has been an extremely exciting year. We got a golf ball. I don't think we're going to talk too much about that because I think we're looking at a PGA show release at the start of next year for that ball. But that's definitely one that the customers can really be excited about. I think the ball is a huge addition to what we have. But currently we just released the new Z Series driver, which I've had on the back burner for the last few weeks. I was hesitant to put it in the bag with those last few remaining events on the season, just because I just hadn't practice tested it enough on the golf course. I love what I saw on track, man. It was fast off the face, very stable. It's the Z785. It's the fastest driver Srixon I've ever made. It's got that carbon crown, which we've seen a lot over the years, which can move a lot of the weight to the perimeter of the club, which makes it extremely stable. And it's in the bag as of this little mini off season that I'm having right now. So trying to get as many rounds as I can under my belt. Loving what I'm seeing with the driver, and it's definitely going to be an addition to the bag for the end of the year. Got the new irons. I've been a 745 guy for the last few seasons. Obviously that iron has been incredibly successful in the US. In the forge space. I feel like more and more PGA Tour players that don't have any equipment contracts are putting that Z Series iron in the bag. which I think is always the acid test of equipment. What would a guy play if he wasn't being paid to play it, right? And I'm seeing that Srixon forged iron in the bag of guys that aren't being paid to play it, which to me tells me, it's a great piece of equipment. And we have the new addition to that Z Series line just came out, and again, got a set of those waiting to go in the bag, which will probably go in the bag towards the end of this year. And moving on to the RTX 4 wedge, which we've just released. I think most people can remember the first Cleveland wedge. I can. I had an old 53-degree Dayatic 588. Listen, I think what we're trying to do with Cleveland right now, I think the feedback from the tour players is that we love the 588. Just keep producing that classical looking Cleveland wedge, and then just give us more technology in that wedge. So, I really feel like what they've done is, with a massive milling pattern on the face, really making sure that those grooves are taken to the absolute edge of, RNA and USGA conforming laws, making sure that we have maximum spin, and comboing that with all the loft options. Big focus this year with Cleveland on the 52, 56, and 60, which is what we see pretty much in most PGA Tour players' bags. And basically they've given us four bounce options on those three wedges, all the way from the high bounce all the way down to an ultra low bounce. So lots and lots of bounce options out there for the consumer. And listen, it's a great wedge, and Cleveland continue to be one of the greatest wedges in the world.
Well, we do have this event coming up here this fall that I think people would probably want me to talk to you about. So the Ryder Cup is coming up. You are a vice captain. Has to be, goes without saying, a huge honor. But in your opinion, what does the role of a vice captain do? And from your experience of being in other teams, how do you see yourself contributing to the team, or how do you see your responsibilities?
For sure. I mean, it's an interesting one for me. Never really kind of been in this role before. In my 4 Ryder Cups, I went from rookie to major champion, sort of playing the anchor match in Wales, to playing first man off at Medinah on Friday morning, to playing the first singles match at Gleneagles. Looking at Gleneagles, I kind of, from a leadership role, I suppose, it was my first Ryder Cup where I was really one of the leaders in the team, and was tasked with having one of the rookies and making sure that he was ready to go that weekend, and played foursomes golf with Victor Dubuisson that weekend, and we were pretty successful together. So obviously knowing Thomas Bjorn, the captain, as well as I do, having won twice around the golf course at Le Golf National just outside of Paris that we're playing the Ryder Cup on this year, having played 4 Ryder Cups, experienced pretty much most things that you can experience at a Ryder Cup. First off, last off, winning point, losing my singles on a Sunday at Medinah, being on a losing team, being on a winning team. I feel like, I've ticked most of the boxes regards to the experience levels that you can have at Ryder Cup. So I feel like one of the things that I can bring to the team room is certainly with the younger players that have never played Ryder Cup before, and helping explain to them what they're going to feel out there. And I think you could never really prepare a guy for what that first tee feels like on Friday mornings. It doesn't matter how experienced these guys are. We have an incredibly experienced lineup of rookies this year. We've been talking. We've got a WhatsApp group among myself and the other vice captains with Thomas Bjorn, the captain, and one of the things we're talking about right now is kind of the rookies, how many rookies we do have, and do we need to offset that with some experience, or do we not? And the varying opinions out there regards. Our rookies are extremely experienced. I mean, you look at Tommy Fleetwood and a John Rahm right out of the gate. I mean, yes, they're rookies because they never played a Ryder Cup before, but they're as seasoned and as decorated a rookie as you're ever going to get. But I guess the flip side of that coin is the first day of the Ryder Cup on a Friday morning is an intimidating and as nerve-wracking experience as any player can ever imagine. Forget back 9 on Sunday at Major Championship. The first day of the Ryder Cup is an extremely intimidating place to be. So helping just prep these guys to understand what they're going to go through, what they're going to feel like, prepare themselves mentally and physically for the weekend. Obviously the team events, getting that chemistry right, helping guys fit together, helping guys work together. and then all the way through to getting ready for the Sunday singles, which is a completely different kind of animal again. You go from having had that team environment all week long to you're just back by yourself again. It's just you and your caddy out there playing against a guy. If you're up for, obviously in the first few matches, the intensity level cranks right up. But if you're in one of the later matches on a Sunday, it's an amazingly eerily quiet kind of day. And really just trying to get these guys to focus again on what to expect from that day, and how to focus on really getting their own point taken care of, and letting the rest take care of itself. So there's a lot of on-course experience from a player's point of view. Obviously, just them communicating with the guys, making sure they have everything they need between now and Paris, and obviously during the week. And it's an exciting week. It's bittersweet, I suppose, in a way, because I still feel like I'm capable of being out there, but I really just haven't put the numbers on the table the last few years. And if I can't play, then it's the next best thing. I'm very, very excited to be part of that backroom staff, and see if we can stop in this US momentum that they've built up over these last few years with a successful Ryder Cup and an incredibly successful President's Cup again, and some of the hottest young players on the planet.
Talking about the golf course, and you mentioned you won there twice. Le Golf National, my bad French accent will go with this, but
that's pretty good.
Okay, not bad. Assessment of the golf course. So it's going to be a multi-part question, but in your opinion, what kind of player would that golf course favor? And then as a follow-up, there's been this, the last couple of Ryder Cups talking about how the captains are trying to do their best at looking at the metrics on setting up the golf course to the advantage of their team. As a follow-up, do you believe that you can actually do that with as good as all the players are anymore? And is that something that, if it's in your advantage, that you guys can do, you would look to do if you think it actually makes any sense to do so?
For sure. I mean, that's an interesting question. Answering the first part first, Le Golf National is a fantastic golf course. We've been playing there in the European Tour for 15, 16 years. Golf courses has evolved a huge amount. It's gone from really kind of scruffy, firm, fast, extremely high fescue, kind of unsculpted, really difficult beast, to a golf course which has really being carved out, really had the rough under control. It's a golf course that we've played the French Open in the past, where guys have been missing fairways by 8 yards and not being able to get the ball back in the fairway, to having the rough really well graded to where bad shots do get penalized, but decent shots you may have something. It's a driver's golf course and an iron player's golf course. It's really one of those courses that if you do miss greens, you're going to be up and down. You're going to be difficult. So I really feel like it's a really, really good kind of tee to green player's golf course. You have to drive the ball well, have to get it in play, even though there's not a lot of drivers. Which is going to be the great part about the Ryder Cup, because stroke play, the way you approach a golf course for stroke play can be very often quite differently how you approach it for match play. So seeing guys being able to take this golf course on in places, like I say, there's a lot of other clubs off tees when you do play stroke play, but there are options. There are options to take the course on. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the strategies unfold during the week regards holes that guys can take on. It's a fantastic risk-reward golf course, especially the last 5 or 6 holes. Really great 2-shot par 5, number 14. 13's a great little par 4 with water off the tee and water around the green. And 15's is a fantastic little strategic par 4, again, with a really tight layup into a tight area and onto an island green. 16's a fantastic par 3 with water right. 17's a long, tough par 4 with a narrow fairway. And 18 to me is kind of like the 18th at the Doral of Europe. It's one of the toughest par 4s to me in the world. Really tight tee shot, which forces you down the left side up against some water, with a really long second shot to an island green. It's kind of a natural stadium course, a la TPC Sawgrass. It's got natural dunes and embankments where I think the crowd experience, the fan experience is going to be fantastic. This golf course to me really has everything in regards, being an exciting Ryder Cup venue. Obviously, I speak of that 18th hole being one of the greatest par fours to me in the world. Obviously, in the Ryder Cup, we don't see a lot of matches coming down 18, which is disappointing in this instance. But any games that do come down are going to be pretty epic. Getting back to golf course setup, I think you made a great point. Nowadays, I think both teams have so much more of a parity than they used to have regards stats, driving distance, just overall tee to green play. The old days of the American team being longer than the European team are kind of gone. I think maybe as a 12, they may be slightly longer than our 12, but I think our long guys are about as long as theirs. So, golf course setup, you sometimes, you're kind of sweeping leaves in the wind, if you like, because, we can, I think historically, you play a Ryder Cup in America and it's wide fairways, no rough, bombs away. They set the golf course up for scoring, lots of birdies and very ultra quick greens. And I think sometimes you see the converse in Europe. You see narrower fairways pinched in at 300, tougher setup, maybe slightly slower greens. I guess the bottom line is that, these 24 players are going to be some of the top 24 players in the world, extremely seasoned professionals that have played and been victorious in, all types of environments around the world. And any advantage that you're trying to gain there is definitely just small percentages. And it really comes down to the team that holds the putts that week. And like I say, I think both teams are going to be incredibly evenly matched. I think there might be a slight home course advantage for the Europeans in this time round, just because we know this course so well. And I think it's so tricky. But I really feel like it's matching up to be an epic Ryder Cup.
And looking at your European team, say 8 or 9 months ago, everyone was talking about, the Americans are going to have such an advantage. And I would disagree. I disagree with that statement when it was kind of out in the media and whatnot. And if you look at it, what they have done in the last 7 or 8 months, I think the European team is absolutely stacked. Question I have for you is, how hard are those captains' picks going to be for your last spots? I mean, I think that's going to be extremely difficult, and there's going to be absolute players that could be on that team that are not going to be on that team because your team is so deep that you're going to be choosing from.
Yeah, for sure. We've had a pretty big kind of push now in the last 3 months from several players. I think if you pull up the rankings, on the European side, you have guys like Russell Knox, Eddie Pepperell, Rafa Cabrera-Bello. We've got like a ton of guys. Thorbjorn Olsen, who's played his way into the automatic spots, knocking guys like Poulter and Casey and Henrik Stenson. And, we've got like a lot of veterans who are on the outside looking in right now. And we've got a lot of young players who have been making big pushes now the last few months. So there's no doubt we've been, getting little emojis on the WhatsApp group from the captain with his head exploding. That he, there's no doubt that there are multiple options. And, we're really looking at players that are going to suit Le Golf National well. We're going to look at players that are going to fit into foursomes and better ball pairing as well. There's a lot of debating to do. I've got a conference call next Tuesday with the captain and the vice captains to really discuss all these things and make our calls. It goes back to the early conversation we had talking about how many rookies we have. Do we need some experience on the team? There's a lot of moving parts to this thing, and ultimately the captain will have the last say. I think we're going to have 12 great European players, and obviously the American picks are really intriguing as well, with Phil and Tiger and Bryson DeChambeau and with Snedeker throwing a win in there a couple of weeks back at the Wyndham. Just a really intriguing kind of set of picks coming up, which I think really adds to the excitement of it all. And there's so many elements why the Ryder Cup has become one of the most intriguing golf tournaments in the world. It sort of, sometimes it doesn't make any sense that it's as big as it is when you look at the President's Cup and really how it's struggled to kind of grasp the public's attention. But the Ryder Cup, there's something special, intriguing about it. And, really, like I say, bittersweet because I'm not playing this year, but, second best being so engaged and being so tuned into everything that Europe are doing to try and win it back.
Who on the American side gives the captains heartburn just even thinking about that team, or is there one or two guys that you're already kind of thinking about of, oh my gosh, if they're on, these guys could terrorize us?
For sure. I mean, listen, I think it's an interesting. You look at Tiger, for example. I mean, Tiger's such a special player, a huge amount of respect for him. To me, he's the greatest ever. To me, you pick Tiger Woods, no problems. But and you look at his Ryder Cup record. It just has never really got the job done at the Ryder Cup, which kind of begs the question why. It's like, it's a tough one for him, because every guy that plays Tiger Woods at the Ryder Cup, it's like their kind of Super Bowl, if you like. I mean, it's the greatest moment of their career, and you typically see that guys raise their game to play against Tiger. So to me, I pick Tiger. Bryson would be one maybe perhaps that would give you a little bit of heartburn, but maybe with his win last week, it's maybe been the kind of settler that you need. He obviously he's an interesting personality and brings a huge amount to the team. He obviously played a lot of golf with Tiger over the last year. Perhaps they're a natural pairing, and the captain's kind of going great. Bryson's played well. He's made the pick easy. Tiger wants to play with him. Let's pick those two guys, and away we go. So you never really know what's kind of going on in the captain's brain. To me, Phil's the interesting one. Phil, again, has always been the cheerleader for the U.S. team. Is he playing well enough at the minute to merit a pick on that team? I mean, he's the second next guy in right now, so maybe he's an obvious, So I guess the fourth pick for the U.S. team is the interesting one. I see Xander Schauffele sitting in the auto. So he's the next man in right now after Bryson, Phil, and Tiger. A hell of a player, extremely talented. And then you got a Bram Snedeker. I don't think Cooch is on the team yet. So I think both the European and the U.S. team definitely have a little bit of heartburn regards picking that fourth spot probably. I think that we've got, the European team, we've three pretty obvious picks, and we've got a really tough fourth pick. And I really feel the same from the U.S. team's point of view. So it's going to be great. I mean, I think when you look at the U.S. team with Brooks and Dustin and Justin Thomas, Patrick Reed, Bubba Spieth, Ricky Fowler, and Webb Simpson. I mean, it's pretty much a who's who of the hottest young players on the planet. And like I keep saying, I think this is just going to be an outstanding Ryder Cup. And do I wish I was playing? Yeah, absolutely. But watching these boys go at it's going to be pretty fun.
So with the 4 Ryder Cups you've played in, your first being in 2008, how much different is that first experience all the way to your last one in 2014? And with all of the pressure and everything on the line, is it something you can actually get used to with experience of playing in an event of that kind of magnitude?
I don't think you ever get used to. I think you become more comfortable in the environment, but the way I always describe it is the second that you stand on that first tee on a Friday morning, it's like absolute back nine on Sunday at a major championship with a chance to win. It's that same kind of heat and pressure right out of the gate. The biggest difference between back nine on Sunday at a major championship is that you've got 63 holes under your belt, and you're playing well, and you're confident, and you're riding the wave, and you know that the ability, and you're playing well enough that week, and you're in the groove. On the Friday morning, the Ryder Cup, you haven't hit a competitive shot yet, but the heat and the spotlight and everything is cranked up, and from that very off, you've got to get yourself acclimatized to being under that kind of heat. So it's amazing. My 4 Ryder Cup experiences are the greatest 4 experiences in my golfing career. 2008 as a rookie at Valhalla. We lost the Ryder Cup, but I enjoyed every shot. I played better ball on Friday afternoon with Padraig Harrington for my first match. Won my first point the next morning with Miguel Angel Jimenez in the foursomes. We had a half match with Hunter Mahan and Justin Leonard. And then I played with Ian Poulter in the better ball, and that Saturday afternoon we won our match against Kenny Perry and Jim Furyk in an epic game. And and beat Srixon in the singles on Sunday. So, it was really, 2008 was, yes, we lost, but I loved every second of it because it gave me so much belief that I could handle the biggest stage in the world. And I used that as a platform to really kick on and probably inevitably go and win the US Open 2 years later. I mean, I think that when I look at the 2008 Ryder Cup as a big part of my growth in the game, it was huge. And, obviously 2010, being in the last match at Celtic Manor and winning that game against Hunter Mahan and helping Europe win the Cup, that was a special moment in my career and certainly one I'll always look back on. And 2012 in Medinah, I mean, just being part of that miracle comeback. I hit the first shot on Friday morning. I was playing with Rory against Snedeker and Furyk in the first foursomes game. I just remember that first tee, the energy, the noise, just epic. It was a special morning, and I lost. It was interesting again, that bittersweet feeling. I lost my singles on Sunday to Zach Johnson on 17. And for the first time in my Ryder Cup career, stood on the sidelines and watched my team get the job done and win in epic fashion, and kind of just, the way that comeback felt, and just to be part of that. And then into 14, again, talked about it earlier, I felt like for the first time that I was a veteran on the team, a leader on the team, taking one of the rookies, winning 3 points out of 3, beating Jordan Spieth, in the first singles match on Sunday, having been 3 down early on. And, it was, every one of them had those little special moments. And, my emotions and my memories of each of those 4 weeks is, definitely, and sort of indelible on my mind, if you like. I can remember so many of the shots and so many of the feelings. And, it's definitely what makes it such a special event, and really what grabs the players' hearts and minds the way it does.
I have to ask you about 2012 at Medinah. I was out there on that Sunday, and I've never seen a golf event like that. Just as a fan, I've never seen 100,000 people plus that quiet as this was going on. Was that the most amazing Saturday afternoon when Poulter went nuts, and then the momentum you guys had on Saturday, and then what happened on Sunday, and then to do it for Olafabo, who just from afar seems like such a class act, great guy. That 2 days of that Ryder Cup has to be, I'd have to imagine, beyond special. Then my follow-up to that is, how much fun was the party that night after pulling off what you guys essentially did, which, I mean, it's history. I mean, even though from my side I was watching, I got to say, well, I saw history. You'll probably never see something like this happen again, where a team comes back that far down. It was incredible to be on the other side to watch it. I can tell you from a fan standpoint, and if you could comment from your side what it was like to actually be in that arena and experience it.
For sure, we obviously, it was the equivalent to 99 at Brookline. But the thing for me, I mean, it was interesting from our point of view. Friday night, we lost Friday 5-3 overall on the day, and we our team talk that night was very subdued. There was a bad atmosphere in the camp. Jose Maria pretty much ripped us a new one in the team meeting. We all went to bed with our tail between our legs a little bit. He was very critical just about the way we kind of were as a team, and the camaraderie among the team. And we pretty much got chewed out on Friday night. And then, interestingly, Saturday night, right? So we lose Saturday 5-3 again. So now we're 10-6 in a hole. But the way Saturday finished with Poulter, I'll just never forget Rory standing there on that 18th green on Sunday, on Saturday afternoon, shaking his head, watching Poulter spin that 10-footer on 18 green and go absolutely, batshit that only Poulter can go. We walked in we didn't walk into the locker room. We ran into that locker room with a type of energy that we had absolutely no right to have that type of feeling and energy in the camp, being 10-6 in the hole going into a Sunday singles, having pretty much been beat off the park for 2 days. Something changed. Those Pulse finished with 5 birdies in a row. I think that Saturday afternoon match. Everyone shaking their head in disbelief, and there was an unbelievable amount of belief in the camp, and sort of. In contrast, our team meeting that Saturday night was incredibly upbeat, and Jose was Jose Maria was really, really, happy with the way the team had kind of came together that day, and the camaraderie was there, and there was an unbelievable, completely unnecessary belief level in the European team that night, which, obviously something happened that next day. It's like the Crenshaw comment in '99. He just, I have a feeling. I just have, no one actually came out and said it in the European team room on Saturday night, but the energy and the belief level there was a feeling. I'll never forget being on the golf course that Sunday afternoon. Like I say, Zach Johnson beat me on 17. He's a hell of a grinder, really tough guy to beat, and I just couldn't quite get the job done that day. But I remember just the noise on the golf course changing, around my 12th or 13th hole. I'm trying my best to try and, get my match to go as far as possible, try and get a half point out of it. And I just remember the noise on the golf course just changing. It was like, wow, what is happening out here? You just knew Europe was doing something special. And, all the events that transpired there with, Justin's putt on 17, I think pretty much summed up the emotions and the atmosphere and the unbelievable shot making that was going on from the European side of, up to Keimer making that putt on 18. It was just an amazing thing, like you say, an amazing sporting spectacle to be part of from a fan, from player point of view. It was amazing, and there's no doubt it certainly rocked the U.S. team, that night. We got a message into our team room that we kind of weren't really, we were asked not to go into the U.S. team room and, be drinking and partying in front of them. I mean, listen, after a couple of glasses of wine, they kind of softened up a little bit, and a bunch of them were in our team room. So, that's the great thing about the Ryder Cup. It can be ice in your veins for 3 days, and you literally, it's us against them for 3 days. And then on Sunday night, you know what? You have a beer, you hug it out, and you get on with being comrades and being colleagues out there, on the PGA Tour and European Tour every week. But I've probably forged closer bonds and closer relationships with U.S. players more so at the Ryder Cup than I have at any point during my career, and definitely relationships that I cherish to this day.
I can tell you it was something to see in person. It was an amazing day. Got a couple more for you here, and I'll get you out of here. 2019 Open Championship. It goes without saying you have to be very excited. It's going to Portrush. My question is, what about that golf course will, in your opinion, make it a great test for the Open Championship? And then I know they made some course changes that they probably the RNA wanted. And did you help consult at all to get that course to make it as good as it can possibly be?
Yeah, listen, I think from Portrush's point of view, having the British Open there for the first time in 68 years, it's going to be really special for the island of Ireland, for just the economy and politically, and but no, it's going to be a very, very special thing for the country, and the golf course it's a purist golf course. It's kind of right there in front of you. Obviously the big debate is whether Portrush or County Down is the best golf course in Northern Ireland. Purists love Portrush just because it's all there in front of you. It's got some epic par fours. Got a great drivable par four, number 5. And like you say, one of the big changes that we made for 19 was removing 17 and 18 from the original golf course, which were kind of like a little bit, you came out of the dunes and you were nearly down into the townland a little bit. 17, 18 were great holes. They were just a bit flat and uninteresting looking. And the criticisms over the years were that, they just didn't fit the golf course. So we built 2 beautiful new holes out in the middle of the golf course, right in the dunes. And you're going to finish now on the old 16th, which is great finishing holes. So yeah, I'm excited for everyone involved. I think as the Irish players from Harrington to myself and Darren Clark and Rory and all the Irish players, I think have really helped this happen. And I think we're going to execute a fantastic Open Championship. The RNA will hopefully have no choice but to put it as part of the rotation going forward, and it's definitely going to be something very, very special. I didn't have a huge amount to do with the architecture and the changes of the golf course, but I know Darren was spending a little bit more time back there in the North Coast than I've been lately, living over in Florida. But I think we're very, very happy with what the R&A and Martin Ebert, the chief architect for the R&A, have done, and I think it's going to be a great test for the guys.
And you got the honorary membership for life, so you finally made it, right? How incredible is that? How cool!
That's pretty fun. Yeah, growing up in the town of Portrush. I mean, listen, I'm very proud of what we have up there, and showcasing that to the world is going to be a very special thing.
And my last question for you actually is Royal County Down. Let's assume this Open is going to be fantastic. I have not personally played Royal County Down. Obviously, it gets rave reviews. Is that enough of a golf course lengthwise? Could you have the Open out there as a future site in that rotation as well, in your opinion?
It really comes back to the original kind of conversation about Portrush, which was, surface area of the golf course regards routing all the spectators around and having room for grandstands. That was kind of the initial R&A feedback, was that Portrush wasn't capable of handling that. We hosted the 2012 Irish Open and had, broke the European Tour attendance record, so I had about 130,000 for the week. Kind of proved that we were able to handle it. County Down is a slightly smaller, it's a smaller golf course, and again, not sure capable of handling the Open Championship. From a golf course point of view, it is more than capable. If it became an Open Championship rotation, golf course would probably quickly establish itself as maybe one of the most difficult Open Championship venues, being such a tough golf course. And I think, from a personal opinion, I'd love to see both Portrush and County Down on the Open Championship rotation. Like I say, my fears are that County Down can't handle the infrastructure. But listen, where there's a will, there's a way, right? So I'm sure they'd do anything they could to potentially, make the golf course accessible for the Open. And listen, let's have a successful Portrush in 19 first and go from there.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. Best of luck coming up in the Ryder Cup and the rest of the 2018 season on both the tours, and I really, really appreciate your time.
No worries at all, Jason. Thanks for having me on, buddy.